Hi, everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer, one of our favorite racing days of the year, opening day at beautiful Del Mar. Friday's feature race is the traditional opening day feature. The eighth is the $100,000 Oceanside. 3-year-olds going 1 mile on the turf. Let's take a look at this field and what a field it is, Mike. This should be a tremendous betting race because you've got a full field of horses and it's very competitive. It's not like there's some standout that's going to take all the money.
Yeah, I agree with that. This race is really wide open. I mean, most of these horses, at least in my opinion, still have an awful lot to prove. I suspect that the number one, McKinnon, will take his share of money. I kind of feel like he's the horse to beat, Dan. All he has to do, at least in my opinion, is prove that he's taken a little bit of a step forward from 2 to 3 because he was really good at 2.
Well, he should be the favorite. He was a really good third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile turf, and he hasn't raced on turf since, but he is going to have to overcome a layoff. We haven't seen him since the El Camino Derby. I'm curious about the pace in this race, Mike, because I don't see a ton of speed. We throw up the Timeform US pace projector, and they've got horses like St. Anthony and Castle Lyok and Barca Boss, horses that have really never been true front runners in their careers up front. I wonder if the two Anmer Hall, stretching out off a couple of sprints for Peter Miller, just tries to take the bull by the horns and make the front.
Yeah, I could see that horse going forward. After that, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. You have the 5 Brits Wit, who's been showing speed in cheaper races. They're stepping up on class here, so it'd probably be pretty wise for them to go in this race. But a lot of different things can happen up front here.
McKinnon is a horse that came from way off the pace in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile turf. I thought ran very well that day. Was a little bit eager, pulling at the back of the pack, got to the outside, ran on against a very good field. And since then, ran in the Sham, was far from embarrassed in that race, considering the dirt is likely not his surface. And then he ran the El Camino Derby, a pretty sharp spot, going 1.125 miles on the synthetic. He was expected to run well as the odds-on favorite. He made the first move to make the lead in the stretch, and he's just going to get run down late. It looked like he won this race. Maybe 1.125 miles was just a bit too far.
Yeah, maybe it was. The winner also gets a perfect trip in this race and just sort of nails this horse in the late stages. But it's fair to say the 1.125 miles could have been too far for him. It's also fair to say, Dan, that that all-weather surface isn't his favorite surface or his best surface. This horse was really, really good on turf as a 2-year-old, including that Breeders' Cup that you were referencing. Again, I feel like if he just comes back as good as he was, or even slightly better as he's supposed to be, I think he's going to be really hard for this field to beat.
Now, he showed an affinity for this surface last year, winning 2 starts during the Del Mar Summer Meet. Of course, the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar as well. The El Camino Derby's already produced 2 minor next winners. The 2 Anmer Hall made his career debut sprinting at Del Mar last summer for Peter Miller. Let's watch that 5/8 of a mile race right now. The pace was solid. We see Anmer Hall on the outside. He's going to win in a very game performance, and then he disappeared. He was gone for about 11 months, and I thought his last race on dirt at Pleasanton up in Northern California on the fair circuit, that was just a fine setup race for this, Mike. I think he's probably going to be a lot fitter with that race under his girth.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I thought he ran okay in the race that we were watching there, the only turf start. He got a really good trip. I like the way that he moved throughout that race. I thought he was actually going to win it a lot easier than he wound up winning it at the end. But he did get the job done in there. I like him coming back to turf. I just felt like, maybe in this spot, he was a horse that I didn't really want that much with all the other stuff that's working against him in a big field.
By Belmont Stakes winner Palace Malice, he is expected to handle the mile without much of a problem. St. Anthony the 3 comes down from Golden Gate, where he just won the Alcatraz Stakes. We're going to watch that race. That race was at a mile, and it wasn't the easiest trip for him. He's last on the rail turning into the stretch. This pace is solid, but right now they're all jumbled up, and it's up for St. Anthony to find a way through, and he is somehow going to pick his way through, get to the outside, and get up.
Yeah, I don't know how he won making this move this late in the stretch, Dan. I mean, he had to basically go from the rail out to the 5 or 6 path inside the final 1/8 of a mile. He still managed to do it and run that field down. It's not, listen, it was a stakes race. It's not the greatest field in the world. You can go through that field in Formulator and look up the PPs of the other horses in there. It wasn't as good a field as this one, but I still don't know how he won that race. And then you go back to the allowance race here at Santa Anita, and he just never got through in the stretch of that race. He was just in tons of traffic late. This horse might be quite a bit better than he looks on paper.
And our friends at Timeform US believe he's tactical enough to adapt to the pace scenario. So it's not like he has to be 100 lengths out of it turning into the stretch. Really interesting horse coming off of that nice video replay. The 4 is Boise. Boise ran 4th in the Alcatraz, the race we just saw. And it's tough to watch the Alcatraz and say, I want anyone other than St. Anthony coming out of that race.
Yeah, especially Boise, just because he had a really good trip in that race, had dead aim through the stretch, and he just wasn't good enough. His prior turf races, obviously aren't that good. And, listen, he just seems like the kind of horse who's better probably on the all weather than he is on turf. He is a big price, though, if you like him.
This is an interesting spot for the 5, Brits Wit, who was claimed for $50,000 out of a turf race at Churchill Downs by Dan Blacker. Now, on paper, that running line looks really, really good, a 2.5 length victory. Brits Wit was going to lose that race. He made the lead. He set a reasonable pace while pressured by a 30-1 shot that eventually finished second. And a horse went right by him in the stretch, and unfortunately, that horse went wrong, and Brits Wit inherited the lead late and was able to win. If you just watch that race, you're thinking it's hard to imagine him stepping up against these tougher stakes horses, but he was claimed by a good trainer. He does have tactical speed, and it's not like his figures are so far off those of the main contenders. There are a thing or two to like, and the price will be right.
Yeah, you will get a price, I think, if you like. I mean, you're right. He's, sort of stepping up off the claim here while he's in good form. So, those are all positives, but this is not an easy spot for him.
Castle Lyok, the number 6, stretched out successfully at Belmont Park last time out for trainer Wesley Ward. And let's watch that race. Castle Lyok was very eager at the back of the pack. He was eventually rated. Louis Size just took a good hold of him coming out of the gate, settled him behind the pace, takes him to the far outside. He still has a lot of work to do, and he just flies down the stretch to win by a head. It was a really good performance for Castle Lyok, who down goes 3rd off the layoff, and just seems like a good fit here.
Yeah, this is a kind of an amazing win. As you mentioned, this horse was just wrangled to the back of the pack early. You saw him, we picked up the replay. He was last with an awful lot of work to do there through the final 3/16. He still gunned that field down. I thought it was a good performance. His prior races were all, okay as well. They were all sprinting. Maybe he was just a horse who was dying to get stretched out in distance, Dan, because he certainly took a step forward last time.
One of Barsabas, the number 7's best races, came over this course at this distance. It was last year's Cecil B. DeMille. He finished second at almost 50-1 in that grade 3 race. He really hasn't taken much of a step forward since then. He was actually claimed out of his most recent start. That claim was voided by the vet. So he's got to deal with about a 2-month layoff, and he's beaten the beaten favorite in what now? His last 2 races. Big step up in class. Another horse, though, that has some figs.
Yeah, too many questions for me to like him in here, but he has run some races in the past there, and to give him a real shot in this race. We'll see if he comes back off this layoff as good as he was before he went away.
The number 8, Balnikov, looks like a very, very tough horse to ride. In his North American debut, the Singletary, he didn't break very well. He was able to sort of creep into a ground-saving position, and he ran pretty well to lose by a nose. Phil D'Amato showed some confidence and ran him in the American turf at Churchill Downs. And again, it was a race where he didn't break very well. He was rank and pulling at the back of the pack. He then just made this big early move on the second turn. Manny Franklin probably couldn't hold him anymore, and it looked like he was on his way, and maybe he flattened out or hung just a little bit. Last time out, he was close to a fast pace with blinkers. Blinkers off. You got to time it just right with this horse. In a big field, he's likely coming from last.
Yeah, I guess they'll probably try and take him back. I don't know what they're going to do here. You're right. He looks like a horse who's not easy to take a hold of early in his races. I really liked his first 2 starts when he got over here. I didn't like his last race at all. The blinker's going to come right off. So maybe that's enough of a reason, to sort of just go back to him. I think he's going to run way better here. I just didn't really like his last race, Dan, and it feels like he's going to take a lot of money in here once again.
Mark Glatt sends out the 9, Dandy Warhol, a horse that's only run once in his career. That was over the all-weather surface sprinting in Ireland. He won that race very easily. Looked like a good horse that day, but now is shipping all the way across the world, stretching out for the first time, switching to turf, stepping up in class.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot working against him. If you go and catch the replay of his debut, though, yeah, you kind of get the feeling this horse can run a little bit. He was really, really impressive in that race. He had good speed in that race, but he rated pretty kindly when his rider asked him to, and he just powered through the stretch of that race. He was really impressive winning first time out. I wanted to throw him in there somewhere because I felt like he'd be a price in here, but he's got a lot of questions to answer here.
Interested in your opinion of Nero Tulip's last race, the number 10. It was his North American debut for Peter Urton, and he was kind of down on the rail turning into the stretch. Didn't have a lot of room. I was wondering if he had any horse. It was hard to tell because it looked like Cedillo was kind of riding him, and then he got into traffic, and then he wrapped up on him.
Yeah, well, that's how I looked at it too. He's one of those horses we've already, we were talking about that replay before with St. Anthony. This horse, he was sort of in a similar position to St. Anthony in there, in behind horses through the stretch. His rider, looking for somewhere for him to go. He never really found it, and he just didn't really have a fair chance. I mean, it's hard to tell how much horse he actually had, but even when you watch the head-on replay, Dan, there was just no lane opening up for this horse to go anywhere. He never saw daylight in there. He's the kind of horse I think you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and he's probably going to be a price in here.
I wonder if the 11 Royal and Rando is an overlay in this race. He's coming off of a win on dirt at Pleasanton, and that's really what this horse does. He likes to win races. He's 5 of 13. He is a rock-solid Calbred who scored going a mile on the turf against Statebred Stakes competition 3 starts back. He ran into a pretty good one 2 back going 9 furlongs. He's tactical. I think he's a little bit underrated.
I think he is too. I like that they're giving him a chance in this race. I, personally didn't want to bet him in here, but I like that they're running him and giving him a chance to win this race because overall he's pretty good.
Jonathan Wong, a high percentage trainer in Northern California, ships down the 12 as a matter of fact, going to stretch him out off 2 sprint races to kick off 2022. Now, he scored on dirt last time out at Pleasanton. Let's watch his race at Golden Gate on the PETA. 2 starts back going 3/4 of a mile, and he's just going to wear these horses down. I thought it was a pretty good effort considering it was about a 6-month layoff. This horse has improved, it seems, from start to start and from 2 to 3, and because he's stretching out, maybe he can get close to a tepid pace.
I respect that he's improving with every run so far. I can't say that I'm, particularly blown away by any of his starts. I'm also, at least a little concerned, Dan, that even though he keeps progressing, he's won 3 sprints in a row. The only time he's lost during that streak is when they tried to stretch him out. So he's got that working against him as well, plus the outside close, plus the turf, which you just don't know if he can handle. I mean, I guess he'll be a big price. So if he is and you like him, you should bet him. I just couldn't talk myself into him.
The 13 Heaven Street ships west for trainer Brendan Walsh. This horse won a stake at Tampa Bay Downs to kick off his 3-year-old campaign and just ran 3rd at Canterbury in the Mystic Lake Derby. Walsh has got some good spots for this horse, and Heaven Street kind of made a move in this race, and he's going to end up flattening out and finishing 3rd. The pace wasn't very, very fast in here. I don't know, Mike. I think maybe he sort of found his niche. He's yet to really buy her anything higher than a 75 and just steadily runs in the low to mid 70s.
Yeah, that's how I looked at him too. He didn't, to me, he didn't do anything special on that race, and I thought that Canterbury race was actually a pretty good spot for him, and he just wasn't good enough to go with those horses. Some of his prior races are okay. I do appreciate that he has tactical speed, so I do think he's going to maybe pull the right kind of trip in here, even though he's drawn outside. Overall, I just don't like his form that much.
Marooned in a very tough outside post position is the 14 Sydney Street, making his North American debut for trainer John Sadler. He won his last 2 starts, but both of those races were sprinting over the all-weather.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they've gone sort of longer distances with him before on the turf over there to start his career. He didn't run poorly in any of those starts. It feels like he has improved since then. I could see him running pretty well in this race. I didn't like the post. He's the shipper, with the top connections. So it just sort of feels like he's probably going to take a little bit of money in here. So I started looking elsewhere.
Before we get to our top selections, please click on the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for all the latest DRFTV video offerings. Top pick time. Wow, this is a wide open race. I have to spread in any kind of multiple race wager. Mike, we saw St. Anthony's stretch replay. It was super impressive. Now he's got to do it against better horses, but I think he's got some upside.
I do too. I just wanted to take a little shot with him and see if he's this good, because it feels like he's, one of the horses in here who could be a good price. And I just didn't really want to put McKinnon on top. I think McKinnon's way the horse to beat. I have him second. I didn't want him on top at a short price. I'll try to beat him with St. Anthony.
Curious to see if Balnikov, if this pace actually heats up, can maybe relax a little bit better. I'm assuming he's going to break slow. He seems to do that in most of his races. But if the pace gets solid and he gets covered up, maybe he'll come with 1 run. I like him cutting back to a mile, and I don't think he appreciated the blinkers last. I'm going to try to get this 5 Brits weight in there. He's going to be a gigantic price, and he can get close to the pace. 31894 for Mike, 8561 for me. It's the Oceanside, the opening day feature at beautiful Del Mar. Best of luck.